Hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out. It's Thursday, 8 p.m. on the 23rd of January, and this is episode 491 of Let's Drone Out, joined by Celestial Drone Shows this week. We'd like to welcome Ant and JP from Celestial to the show. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Hey.
And you're also joined by the regulars, Jack.
Hello.
Our Lord and Master, Frank, who may or may not be attached to the internet.
Hello.
Curry Kitten.
Sorry.
Everyone's favourite.
There you go.
Curry Kitten.
Hello.
We could have gone on all night if we hadn't said that. And myself, Stephen. Welcome, everyone. Hope you enjoy the show. I'm going to hand over now to Jack and Frank, who've got some first-hand experience with these displays, and let them quiz the guys. So over to you.
Yeah, because basically, I had in my Google alerts for ages about any drone shows anywhere near me that I can go to, because I've been fascinated by sort of seeing YouTube videos about them, and I wanted to see them in person. And so there was the Ali Pali Alexandra Palace fireworks display back in obviously November, and there was sort of the that popped up as being there's going to be a drone show attached to that. So I thought, great. So I did the 5-hour round trip for that, and the drone show alone was entirely worth the visit. It was a great show. It completely blew my mind as to what could be done with this kind of new creative medium. So I was really excited about it, and then saw that you're doing another show about 20 minutes walk away from Jack's house. So I was like, well, come on, Jack, we're gonna go and see. I want to show you like what this is about. So we went to the Christmas Carol one down in Brighton, and so we sort of. Now, I've seen almost 2 different shows that's like so different. So the one at Alexandra Palace was the Cosmic Wisdom this routine that you do, which is sort of I would describe as quite abstract, but still has a kind of narrative to it. Whereas Christmas Carol is kind of is very much a narrative, and it's almost doing a sort of Jackanory displaying things while the while the story is being told. So it's kind of 2 different takes on it, and I was very impressed by kind of how you're taking this as a creative medium and sort of moving past the technological side and making it into an art form. So that was kind of my take on it. But Jack, with his arts degree, I imagine has some other thoughts on it.
No, it was it was really good. I mean, yeah, my art degree was hard at work there, enjoying that show. I did miss some fireworks. I'm sure the local Hove people would have loved that, but it was it was impressive how much you did. In like that amount of space, I was like, wow. And there was like so many of them. I did also manage to blag my way over and speak to Lee, and I would have loved to have gone over, looked at a drone, kind of. I mean, the charging scale of like your batteries is impressive. It's just 50 cal like ammo tins just whizzing past me and being feverishly plugged in, and I was just like, wow, like there, and all quality brand. So I kind of had a little peek behind the curtain, and I kind of want more. Hence why I'm hoping that I can get up to the line of asking you some technical questions, if that's all right, at some point. But yeah.
So between you two, how have you two got involved with Celestial and drone shows? So JP, if you maybe want to introduce yourself first.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you guys for having us both on. It's really, really interesting and great to be sort of telling everyone about what we do. My background is I've spent my entire career for sort of 15, nearly 20 years in the live events industry. in sort of live events, live concert touring predominantly. So I've toured the world with some pretty well-known bands as a lighting designer, lighting director, production designer. So I did that for the majority of my career. Then lockdown hit and that all stopped like a tap. Immediately there was no concerts anywhere in the world. So by chance, I rented a unit which is on this kind of industrial complex where we're based. Celestial moved in next door. The moment I saw they were flying drones, it's like a moth to a lamp. After doing 15 years of lights hanging in roofs of arenas and stadiums, suddenly we're doing lights that are flying in the sky. So, but yeah, really early on, I got involved and stuck around until now. So, and I've been involved in the production side of things since that time. Flying, being part of flying most of the shows around the world.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my background's also in lighting. I specialised in those like flashing wristbands you see at the Coldplay.
Oh yeah.
So
The
I
IR ones.
helped produce those, and been working in live shows for about 15 years as well. So doing lots of that, lots of touring, and then I've been with Celestial for 5 years now, ever since the first day, when it was just a couple of guys dicking around in a shed, which we're still arguably doing now, but we have a slightly nicer shed. Yeah,
And a lot more drones.
Yeah, and then I've been at every single show we've ever done.
So do you have a sense of what kicked off the drone show kind of scene? Like, was it suddenly that drones had enough power to lift the LEDs? Was it that the LEDs all of a sudden were powerful enough to do the job? Or do you have a sense of that? Or is it just enough people came together at the right time?
I mean, it was probably the declassification of the RTK system, because that's military technology. And after that, you start to see a lot more interesting things happening with drones. And I think it was Intel that did the first proper drone show as just sort of a branding gag. And they had like a whole department at Intel dedicated to it.
Yeah, it was the first. I saw one of the first Intel shows I was on tour in America, and we did a show at Coachella Music Festival. And behind the stage, literally where the tour buses park, Intel, you saw all these cases of Intel, which were what are Intel doing here, and what are they doing out in the middle of the desert? And then out of them got really rudimentary, like they were like polystyrene drones essentially. And they flew, I think, a swarm of 100 drones, just chucked them down on the ground and sent them up and did the first sort of show. And that was really early days, probably 2014, something like that. Maybe 14, 15, that sort of time. And then I think, they must have invested a ton of money and then really developed the technology. And that's, definitely the innovation. It's interesting about the RTK stuff.
Yeah.
Is it purely RTK? Because I kind of get the feeling that there's some issues with networking these as well, and it's taken a while to kind of get radio protocols so that you can control that many at once and they can talk to each other as well.
It's not too bad, actually. I mean, there's been obviously a lot of advances in Wi-Fi over the years, like especially with like the likes of 5G or whatnot. But I mean, well, at events like a few years ago, you couldn't get any Wi-Fi reception anywhere. But they seem to have changed that a lot recently, probably in like the last like 10 years or so.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, that's improved. It used to be the thing of like the moment the band would come on stage, everyone's phone would lose like signal. Wi-Fi would just drop out because everyone's unlocked their phones to like video it. So from a live events kind of thing, going back like 10 years, you would find anything that ran off Wi-Fi would just sort of drop out or get latency.
So did you have to look elsewhere instead of relying on Wi-Fi then? Do you come up with your own solutions, or are there other kind of competing standards that fare a bit better in the sort of crowded events?
Well, yeah, I think it was the advancement of Wi-Fi, 5.6 and Wi-Fi 6 coming out, and it's that advancement that's enabled you to. I mean, my understanding would be that
6E.
Yeah, but I think the fact that you've got so many objects, the thing with drone swarms is you're laying out 800 objects a meter apart in a really close area, and then they're taking off and fanning out over a really large area, 150 meters. So it's like two completely changing environments all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Wi-Fi traffic tends to hang down quite low. So the moment you get above like a crowd, for example, you'll see a significant increase in your signal strength.
You have a bit of a nail biting range when you're like, just get up there.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's always in the back of your mind, but yeah, we don't really have that many network problems. It's actually quite a relief, really.
It's good to hear. It's something that kind of plagues the amateur side of it as well. You're always like fighting radio links, I guess, because we more want to fly like round the back of buildings and through all sorts of dense obstacles rather than just put them up in the sky.
Even in a field, when we've got more than 3 people, we could end up struggling. So, but we're putting full video over that. So that's kind of the difference, I imagine.
Yeah, we lose 5.8 for video on our side. We don't use that for communication.
Sending less information than one video screen.
Yeah.
So I heard the words RTK several times, and Frank and Stephen nodded. What's RTK?
It stands for real-time kinematic. So basically, you have a. Do you want me to get really technical, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're on a drone show full of nerds, please.
I'm sure, and they might make a worse job of it than you.
Get the whiteboard out.
You've got a GPS receiver. You plonk it down in the field, and then you get it to survey its location over a period of time. So over this period of time, it's getting loads and loads of GPS signals that are telling it where it is. So you take all of those points, you average it out, and you know with a reasonable degree of certainty where that GPS antenna is in the world. Because there's all sorts of things that affect GPS, for example, space weather. So you can have solar wind, which can slightly blow satellites off course, and then that can sometimes affect your GPS. So if you look at a drone's GPS in Mission Planner, for example, you'll notice it'll be dotting around.
Oh yeah.
And that is down to things like space weather or your GPS not being slightly accurate. What the RTK does is that after it's done its survey, it knows that every single GPS location it receives after the survey, it knows what the margin of error is. So if it knows the margin of error, it can transmit that to all of the other GPS antennas in the same location. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're in your drone swarm. Basically, everybody is comfortable with all their GPS locations in comparison to everybody else, which I suppose is very important when you're flying them all up and not crashing into each other.
So you've got this static ground GPS that's used to like calibrate everything else, and you use the offset from that to stop there being drift in the airborne GPS. Is that the general idea?
And you can actually get down to centimeter accuracy with that. It's really quite handy. It's really quite amazing what you can do with that. It's the same kind of technology that's used in all farm machinery now. So you've got the CORS network, which is literally just an RTK station just based on farms somewhere, and then all farm machinery goes into it.
I'd seen it used in some very large filming drones so that they could do like camera in the sky type moves, and they could send the camera over a 3D pass, and it could then like rewind exactly the same track and do it again with the camera pointing exactly the same place in the same location. And you can do kind of special effects tricks then by moving people in and out of shot and having it replay the same camera move and things like that.
Yeah, I think Painus 360 has done some stuff with 3DXR on RTK GPS as well. Particularly for them, I imagine it's for surveying and agricultural stuff. But yeah, I mean, if anyone's interested and wants to do a deep dive on that, I would go on Painus' channel and search for that.
Cool. All right, so that's been the big enabler then, pretty much, just to get everything working so that you can hold a fantastic RT pattern in the sky. But there must be a ton of software to be able to actually draw with drones rather than just fly around with a joystick, right? So what's going on there?
Yeah, because we've all been sort of talking about this, and we've been sort of developing our own theories. It's kind of like, at some scale, can you just say, I want this drone to go there and that drone to go there, but they don't need to know about each other. It's fine. The software will sort it out. Or when you get bigger, do they need to know where each other is, and do they work it out themselves? We've all been fascinated by the idea of how the software works, and we really want to know, basically.
Okay, so the drones don't actually know, or what? They have no knowledge of each other, and everything is synchronized to GPS APOC time. So you just tell them when to start the mission. Each drone is given a different segment of the animation, and the animation is checked in advance to see if drones are going too fast or if you've got any paths that are getting too close to each other. And thanks to the accuracy of RTK, you know that with a reasonable degree of certainty, like that, your drones are going to be safe to fly. So I'm probably not explaining that very well.
No, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
you do your design on your platform, and then you're saying this is. I mean, a lot of the people listening will know from 3D printers about like G-code and toolpaths and things. So I imagine it's the same sort of thing where you've got your design, the part that you want, and then you make your paths out of that, and then you're assigning each one of those paths to a drone, and that's all that drone knows is it needs to do this path at this exact time, and that's all it knows, and it doesn't have to worry about coordinating with anyone else. It just needs to know it's offset from the RTK and where its next waypoint is, I guess.
Exactly, and then you press play on all of those records all at once, and then that's the magic of it.
How do you deal with situations like batteries emptying, and if it's emptying faster than expected, do you have to have them responding with telemetry and be like, oh, swap that one, or do you just always fly them with loads of battery margin and just swap when the batteries are only half full or something?
Yeah, I mean, we've done loads and loads of testing over the years, so we know how much juice we need in a battery before we take off for a certain length of show. And flying a drone display is a lot like flying a spreadsheet. So you're just looking at a spreadsheet with loads of values coming at you.
So every drone's a little line on a spreadsheet or a little column, and you're just peering at them constantly, looking for anything that's unusual.
Yeah, it's like, in 10 minutes that's going to run down by X number of percent.
Million.
And then you can make some pretty reasonably accurate calculations based off of that.
And is this like that?
That's the only live data as well, isn't it? We transfer.
Well, we get quite a few different bits of live data, so things like satellite count, position, battery, whether or not there's any sort of errors, GPS quality, that kind of thing.
I think it's good. It's like the actual paths are uploaded up onto the drones, and they're just running that as a pre-recorded animation, but we get all of that telemetry data live. It's not like we're not flying the drones live, as it were. Blind.
Yeah, in as much as you're not really moving the head on a 3D printer live, you're just
exactly that.
Are you getting that over Wi-Fi network, or are you using SICK receivers?
We're getting that over Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so is this like commercially available software for doing this, or is this stuff you've developed in-house?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture, really. We use a lot of different, there's commercially made flight software, and then there's a combination of, off-the-shelf animation software that we've tweaked to exactly our requirements and our kind of design parameters. We've got lots of bolt-ons and plugins, and we use multiple bits of software to do that. But yeah, the flight software is commercially available, but it's very specialized to just drone swarms.
And what about the hardware as well? Are you getting sort of fairly off the shelf drones and LEDs and putting them together, or how much of that have you had to sort of develop in house?
We use a relatively off the shelf drone that is again specifically designed for drone light shows. It's assembled elsewhere, and then we import them, and then we do a bit of modifying, a bit of tweaking, a bit of R&D work ourselves. But it's again a bespoke design for LED drone swarms specifically. It's sort of the actual frame. The airframe is very similar to sort of an FPV kind of style drone. Yeah, so quite lightweight, quite nimble.
So just as a comparison, because if we're talking about like flying an FPV drone around because it's loaded down with cameras and GoPros and stuff, and we're being stupidly high on the throttle, we might get like 4 minutes out of something. So what sort of battery capacity do you carry, and how long would you expect it to be able to fly in your shows?
I think it's what 5,200 mAh of the current batteries we've got.
Yeah, it's big battery. We're about 1.2 kilograms on takeoff.
Wow.
And we get with one of the R&D pieces we do is looking at battery technology and making sure we've got the most latest kind of mix of makeup of the batteries. And we get at the minute we can do sort of a 13-minute show.
Yeah, I mean, but then you've got takeoff and landing on top of that, which will add an extra couple of minutes. So you're looking at about 15 minutes of flight time.
Yeah.
But then you've got the LED as well, which can run down your batteries quite a bit.
And we saw at the Brighton show, the Christmas Carol show, you split the fleet into different groups and then did it in sort of 3 different sections. So although each flight might have been 15 minutes, we saw a 45-minute, hour-long show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was actually the longest drone show in the world. Actually, that beat the world record by like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, that's our sort of secret recipe that we've been sort of pioneering for a while, is the the seamless handover of drone swarms, so to keep that show going.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass to just like doing all the error checking and stuff on that, like just being absolutely certain that nothing's getting too close to each other.
I suppose you've got to keep all the lights off on the ground to not distract from the display, so like pelting around in the dark as well.
Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised how well you can see them, because they have like little security lights on them that flash. But you can see them.
It's a faint orange glow.
Yeah. I was very surprised though at the Alexandra Palace show, because I knew from where I was sitting, I could see on the map, I could see where they were going to take off, see where they were going to fly. I knew what the timing was, and I sat there looking at the ground, waiting to see something take off, and all of a sudden the show started. I'm like, how did they get there? I completely missed it. I didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. It was very impressive.
Yeah, I mean that's the one kind of beauty of it is, if we want to sort of appear by magic in the sky, we can craft it so that we do that and, like you say, surprise the audience. We're sort of we do a lot of the big music festivals, and that's a really big thing that we play into, is that sort of surprising the audience. Appearing in complete darkness, 600 drones appearing out of nowhere. A giant skull or a giant face or out of the sky, it's quite something, especially at a music festival at 10:30 at night on the Saturday.
That Space Invader.
Yeah, the Space Invader. Yeah, multiple Space Invaders turning up out in the sky. It's just
sweet.
Have you got photos of that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely.
That cool.
Yeah, we'll share that. Yeah, it's
so
cool.
when a show is going on, how much of your time is split between looking up at the sky to make sure everything's good and looking at your telemetry, which, as you say, it must be like a spreadsheet of stuff going through? It's kind of like reading the Matrix going on live to see if there's any issues there.
So we always fly with 2 pilots. So every single thing that gets inputted into the drones has 2 sets of eyes on it. So if one person's looking at the screen, the other person's looking up at the sky, or we always have an ADS-B monitor. We also have a spectral analyzer that's constantly running throughout the show. So all of that stuff's being checked, by more than one person. We've also got spotters out as well. So there'll be like a group of people out in the field, reporting back everything that they can see.
Yeah,
cool.
They're all on sort of secure comms, back to the pilots. They could be up to 1,000 meters away, but they're on a special comms network that doesn't interfere with anything that we're doing and can't be intercepted. you know, those spotters are sending information into the, you know, into the pilots about what's actually happening. Because sometimes, especially in the festival environments, you know, where Houston is placed, you know, we've got VLOS of the swarm, but you're not seeing it from distance. You know, it's yeah.
So we had a question from the chat there, wondering, to keep that kind of mass in the air and not burn through the battery, what sort of prop size are you running? 7, 8, 10 inch, 12 inch?
Oh God, don't know this.
What you do?
That size off the top of my head. About that big.
About a 10 or a 12 inch prop from guesstimation.
Yeah, we should.
I thought that would be ascribed onto your brain because you're buying all these things by the thousand. I imagine when you make a component choice, you better be pretty careful because you're going to be buying hundreds of them, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Some of the parts we buy, you know, is in the tens of thousands. You know, the screws and washers and things. You know, it's huge. And the same with batteries. You know, you're buying thousands of lipos. You're not buying. You know, you're importing pallets from China. You're not buying a couple off it. You know, 2 or 3. You know.
I imagine they don't quite go through propellers the same way that some of the rest of us might do, just because they're probably not flying into concrete quite as much as we do.
True.
Yeah, I mean, they go through like scheduled maintenance regularly, and you know, yeah, and during that they'll get like a full prop change, and generally before a show, as everything's being packed up, everything will be checked over as well.
Do you like hand build these, or do you outsource all the building to another company?
Well, we do all the maintenance in house.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't build anything from scratch.
Oh, you don't build from scratch. Okay.
Yeah. How did? Oh, go on. Go on, Frank. Go. How did Celestial get in your drone show? It's because oh man, his internet must be terrible.
Yeah.
How did Celestial get started in drone light shows? Is that what you're going to say, Frank?
So, yeah, yeah. Like I say, so it was about 5 years ago. Our founders essentially they watched I think it was the Winter Olympics in Sochi.
Yeah, the Russian one.
Yeah, and Intel. I think we're doing a show there, and that was the first sort of real big kind of use of the technology. It was that case of, you know, we should bring that into the UK. So immediately it was, how do we do that? How do we work with the CAA to, you know, draft paperwork on this? You know, it's completely new, so you don't have anything to reference really. So yeah, it was, you know, but then very quickly it was, how do you take that technology and use it slightly differently? You know, the early use of it is, you know, like in that stadium, you know, the drone show is 500-600 meters away from the audience. Yes, it looks great on camera, but you know, what is the actual impact for the audience? And then we've sort of spun that the other way now, where, like you say, where you came to some of our ticketed shows where the audience are bang center, you know, you're watching it in a stadium environment, 180 degrees around, drones take off in the middle of the cricket pitch, as it were, in Brighton, take off, do a display in front of you. You know, it's like going to the theatre and the drones are the actors rather than, you know, any people. So it's definitely a new spin on that, and that's sort of our journey in the last 5 years.
Yeah, and how much of it now? I mean, we've touched on it a bit, but how much of it now is a case of you designing sort of the experience and the show? Like how much of the technical limitations? So like, you know, the radio range and making sure all the noise floor is all good, and the distance from your RTK between each drone and all of that. Like, how much are you coming up against the technical limitations, and how much is just sort of your creative vision at the moment?
I think there's a bit about, I mean, the types of shows that I've just talked about, you know, in stadiums, you know, we got across, you know, some challenges of how do you get a lot of objects close to an audience in a cricket pitch. You know, if you know cricket, the center of a cricket pitch is like hallowed turf, you know, in some of these places. You know, and, you know, how do you make that physically fit with the required safety distances all the way around? You know, some of these, you know, stadiums in the UK are, you know, by their nature, where they've been built in amongst houses. You're taking off 100 meters away from someone's house. And how do you squeeze that around, and how do you close down infrastructure?
We've got some pretty crazy looking flight volumes.
Yeah.
Just to make the most of the space, to make sure that you always keep your safety distance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, when we send over some of our kind of KML specs of where the animators have to animate within, some of those volumes are pretty crazy.
there would just be like a small sliver that you can only fit like a dinosaur's head in.
Yeah.
Or like a wing of a dragonfly, and
So it's sort of squeezing. It's not quite round peg square hole thing, but it's close to it. It's really You're doing
More like
the
someone's
best
left you a space in a jigsaw puzzle, and you have to cut your own shape to fit in there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just sort of maximizing the technology in the space and available, and flying in these really urban environments, which we've sort of made a name for. I think Eurovision was another good one where we flew in like the city centre of Liverpool, essentially right in the middle of Liverpool, almost closing roads off, behind the main kind of council building, up, lifting up behind the building, pushing forward over the building so the audience below can see, and it's all set for cameras and TV, and so yeah.
Do you try and
calculating all the line of sight stuff as well?
Yeah.
And like how the animations can make sense at that distance as well. So
do you try and play with natural features and appear over them or around them, or combine them into the pictures?
Yeah. We try use kind of the environment wherever we are. If you're near water, you drop down lower so you get the reflections on water, for example. Or if you're near a building, you can maybe mimic part of the building, or it's definitely kind of make use of the environment.
And you make use of sort of the traditional, I say traditional, the other live events technology around, right? Like you make a lot of use of the music and the ground lighting as well.
Yeah,
just a lot of that going on in both shows, really.
Yeah, that's key to it. With our, especially those ticketed type shows that we put on and design ourselves. We are the talent, as it were. So we leverage all kinds of different AV. We've got a full bespoke soundtrack. That show you came to was voiced by Matt Lucas, the comedian. So we have him in, we design the script, have him come in, record with us, record the narration to the drones. And then, using both of our kind of lighting experience, we design like a big show lighting package to complement it, to sort of get rid of the, if you're producing an event, you don't want any sort of black space between, the audience, big black space, and then the drones in the sky. We try and bridge that gap with kind of other lighting elements as well. So it's about, we can touch on it later, but how making that kind of multifaceted kind of AV kind of experience.
I guess that sort of goes towards Magic Pencil's question there. With have you thought about smoke or lasers?
Yeah, the main problem with that is payload size. To get a decent looking laser, you've got to have a pretty substantial power source on it. You'd be better off firing a laser at a drone from the ground. But I think there's some technology out there at the moment, but I haven't seen it in person, so I don't know how effective it is.
I have seen some people attempt to launch smoke in other countries with other drones, and definitely not in the UK, because that wouldn't be approved of. But I've heard it
We've
can be
definitely
done.
put smoke grenades on drones. We've definitely done that. The thing is, you're limited to like the 30 seconds or something that you get out of that, which is fine for us. But if you're talking about a 15-minute long show, I can imagine that's also the size of space and everything. I can imagine it wouldn't have quite the same effect as when we're 5 blokes in a field.
I think the best occasion was when someone got very excited about having a smoke grenade on their drone and dug a propeller in and sent it backwards into the hedge, which then just billowed out smoke, and it was all gone by the time they managed to pull it out the hedge.
Did the props not just blow all the smoke away?
No. It's like as long as you go slow, you just can't have too much airspeed, or it gets blown away. But if you keep the speed down, it looks all right.
It would look cool having 500 of those going on.
Yeah,
The paperwork.
Jack's got some good footage from the mini airshow event that from 6 years ago now, where he strapped on a load of Roman candles, or sort of mini cake candle things on his. There you go.
Yeah, we used to have them whenever we got donations during the live
Yeah.
stream, and they would be let off during the live stream to thank our.
That made some nice
supporters.
little pretty sparklers out the back. That was quite good.
Yeah.
So
I am
just talk-
the CAA's worst nightmare.
Yeah, you're banned.
But
So-
luckily,
so
Frank
just-
has read all of the legislation and can keep on top of it. So
Frank is the
keeps
man.
us safe.
Just talking about the sort of safety aspect of drones, we've all had instances of various things failing. If you get some sort of issue with one of your display drones, for example, the GPS is lost or the battery dips more than you think, is there some sort of protocol to say this is looking dodgy, let's land that one and take another one off, or something along those lines?
Yeah. I mean, the protocol for that is just land it. I mean, you'll get a little warning that will show up on the screen, and it will tell you which drone it is. So someone's randomly knocking at our door. Oh, sorry. We're in the middle of a podcast at the moment.
Who is it? Is it Otley?
Hello.
It's Otley.
Oh, you're...
Yeah.
Just don't hoover.
Yeah, you'll get a
Try
little
and do
warning
their
that will
job.
appear on the screen,
Sorry.
and then you can land the effective drone. We've also got geofencing in place as well. So you have a soft geofence and a hard geofence. So if a drone approaches a soft geofence, it will fight like hell to get back into the swarm. If it breaches that, it will try returning to home. If for whatever reason it somehow breaches the hard fence, then it will disarm. And because we've got the safety buffer in place, it's been calculated that that drone at its maximum height and its maximum speed can't breach that
Cool.
safety buffer.
Great. It's all about doing the maths beforehand, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of meticulous planning that goes into putting off one of these.
And do you get the opportunity, because I know you obviously design this on a computer and you can kind of watch it and make sure the paths are good, before you actually take it to do the show, is there some way you can go and actually fly these live to make sure it all looks how you expect it to? Or is it just like, this is good on the computer, we can do it?
Yeah, so we've got a testing facility that we fly out a lot. We're actually there at the
That's where
moment.
we are, yeah. So we're sort of unique that we have our own test facility. We could fly any day of the year, any time.
That's
we've
handy.
flown, basically Boxing Day.
Yep. King's Nose on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
So,
Story for another time.
yeah, we're just flying a nose around, which is quite funny.
So if you're designing a show, how many people are involved on your side on sort of the designing of it, from like you say, working out your KML of what the area is you're allowed to fly in and what your barriers have to be, and then what it should actually look like, and the animation and everything else. But how big is your team, and how long would it take to go from scratch to having a show ready to go?
Yeah, we're about 25 people in total. Sort of 8 to 10 animators full time animating. Then about the same in the kind of ops and production team, who is sort of putting together the linking the animation and bringing it into the ops, and then test flying it, doing all of the kind of paperwork and admin, and working with all of the kind of the event production itself, tying all the elements together. And then all our animators are working full time on our kind of ticketed shows as well, so not just our commissioned work. Yeah, so we're a reasonable size, about 25 people.
Yeah, it's quite a few people to keep running. Yeah.
And about 1,000 drones as well.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of the logistics of sort of getting that many drones, just laying them out, switching them all on, having them make sure they've got the instructions about what to do. Is that where a lot of staff are involved in, just literally the logistics of just setting it out? And then I just think, like, collecting them in again, recharging the batteries. This is like real large scale stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of humping and dumping about. I mean, many people do we normally deploy with now?
Yeah, we're about 10 people on some of our shows, and it's those ticketed shows, like you say, where we've got to do a battery recharge, like you saw, Jack, it's we're charging 6, 7, 800 batteries very quickly. The physicality of unplugging all those batteries, loading them into ammo tins, moving them, charging them, doing that process. We don't have 800 chargers sat there. We have big racks that can do it in sort of batches, I think 48, different racks at times. So cycling through the racks, testing them, just checking that they're flight ready, taking them back out to the grid.
Yeah, I mean, every battery is checked and logged before it goes out, and then it's all labeled about which ones are charged, which ones are uncharged, and there's loads of boxes and stuff flying around.
Do you use like barcode scanners or like tags or something?
Yeah, there's QR codes and everything. So
very big
spreadsheet as well, and
so just wander around with a scanner, like beep, that's ready, and
essentially, and it's it's logging it and making it all accountable, so we know which drones are in which flight, what batteries they use, when was the battery last checked, when was the drone last maintained. We've got logs of everything.
Right.
We sort of
are you internal resistance checking them as well?
Yeah. I mean, we generally lock a couple of people in a shed and then force them to charge batteries all the time with like checkers and stuff, and
You're probably one of the few people that have ever exceeded the mating cycle of an XT60.
Yeah, we're probably close to it. Yeah, absolutely.
So
how do you cope with? I mean, you're doing an operation like that. It's quite. You've got to be careful because you're dealing with the high voltages, high power connectors. You put things in the wrong way around, you can get some nasty scorches. And how do you charge that many batteries and like keep your mind on the task at hand without like accidentally, jamming the balance plug in the wrong way around or something?
I think, a lot of it's down to experience. I mean, the guys who do the charging have charged tens of thousands of times now. And they just have their own system for doing it.
I was wondering if you have your own like rigs that you make or anything, just to make it harder to put things in the wrong way around, or just to
I mean, a lot of our battery charging stuff's custom made. So I mean, the balance boards, you can only put the balance cable in around one way. I mean, when the company very first started, there was one guy who put one in round the wrong way. He had like a cheap Chinese balance board, and it burst into flames instantly. We had to like throw it out of a tent and then go out.
I think this is an experience that everyone watching will recognize.
I mean, that was our first show, so we've gotten considerably better since then.
I think that's one of the almost the benefits of doing it at such scale that we do. You learn so quickly, and you can revise so quickly. You can say we've gone through. I think last year we went well over 10,000 cycles of charging, across the whole fleet. It's, you learn so quick.
Yeah,
there's probably nobody.
If you
else
have errors, they become endemic pretty quickly, and you get rid of them.
Absolutely. And it's just sort of regimented process and following the process and tweaking it and improving it.
Yeah, it's a constant problem you hear with people who get into the hobby, kind of building their own drones. Just safe battery use is probably the number one topic, I think. In fact, we have our own little banner that we put up here, which is "Don't be on fire." The watchword.
Rule 0. You know about that, didn't you? Rule 0: do not be on fire.
There we are. Yeah, Rule 0: do not be on fire.
Yeah.
One of our emergency responses for like when a drone, if a drone we've got an emergency response plan if a drone catches on fire in the air. We've never had to use it, but it's in there.
It's there.
Like,
You've thought about
radio
it.
calls and stuff for it and everything.
Well, luckily it sounds like you've got a
spin?
really great system for just checking everything in, checking everything out, and every single one of those batteries has had a visual inspection. It's been tested for its performance and safety and everything before it goes into the air. You're not just like, oh my god, I've got to film that. Quick, slap another battery on and fly as quickly as possible. Which is what normally
and
gets the
handled
likes of
by
us in
multiple
trouble.
people as well before it even gets into a drone. So you'll have someone who's charging it, someone who's packing it, someone who's putting it in the drone, someone who's plugging it in. So you get a lot of eyes on every object.
Awesome.
I've noticed we've only got 15 minutes left. This is what we like to call the quick fire Frank round, because he's the only person who can read and speak at the same time quick enough. So, Frank, ask your questions.
I wonder why you're being so quiet. Jack has pre-prepared some questions, which is very unusual. You should feel very honoured. So Jack wanted to know, so when you're designing the drone light show, which you're both very well placed to do, how much does the music or the sound play into your design? Like, I imagine what Jack wants to know is, do you design the animations first? Do you design the sound first? Like, how does that all go together?
Or do you go, that'll be easy, let's do that?
Famous last words.
Yeah. I mean,
I know, it's never the case.
It's all considered, definitely. I mean, a drone show without music is a slightly different experience. With music is completely, you get some shows where people have a real emotional kind of reaction to the drones. There's something kind of magic and a lot of mystery about it, them taking off, and the scale of it is huge, and we amplify that with music. So it's all considered from the start. We might know the piece of music that we're going to animate to, or we know kind of what style it will be, or we're blessed and we have it right at the start, so the animators are literally on timeline following the music as they go. Definitely on the ticketed shows, it's like a script. When we know the music, we know the sound effects, we know exactly kind of where it's going to be. It's not like we get on site on some of the other shows and we just pick a track off a playlist and press play. It's all considered.
Yeah, our timings are normally pretty good as well.
Yeah. We keep getting a lot of requests to do a show to classical music. So I don't know why we keep getting a lot of requests.
I can see that working.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's following on from the air show proms that's quite often done, where they've got classical music and they have a Spitfire doing a routine. Maybe it's that kind of thought of like, oh, I've been to a show like that.
We should probably listen and try it.
Live orchestra.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's a Polish air show I worked at last year and will probably be working at this year, where they had a full military orchestra playing while there's an air show going on, and they synchronize their air show with their orchestra. So it can be very impressive. But Jack wants to know what other creatives are involved in the planning phase, like designing your light show. You say you've got the animators there, who are presumably your sort of lighting design equivalent of CAD monkeys. What are the roles involved? Yeah.
It's sort of really, really similar to sort of designing a short film or producing a theatrical play. You've got a script writer, you've got a creative director, script writer, creative kind of artists. Whether that's illustrator, and then you have a sound.
I guess
designer.
That's sort of storyboarding out the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the full process is from we meet with the client, we speak to the client. What is the reason why you're doing the show? What do you want to get across? We'll then take those ideas, put a sort of a storyboard together. That will get illustrated, get that approved. And from there, we will pass that to the animators, who will then animate all of those scenes. And then at the same time, we've got a lighting designer involved. We've got a sound designer involved. We're putting the music together. And then a creative director's overseeing all of it. So
and then the animators are then putting that into the drone, and then I guess is the design then sort of being designed? is it all happening at once? I guess like you're getting the sort of the creative input from one side, the legal, technical, the geographical stuff from the other side, and you're all just sort of iterating it at the same time, or
I think ideally we are. Yes, we're all working. Sometimes the timeline changes. You might get the music right at the last minute for some reason, or you might make some changes, or
you might open up another block of seats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we have to change the flight volume.
That's another thing that we might not know the full flight volume yet, so we've got to design a show. We've got to crack on with that, and we don't fully know where we're taking off from yet, just by any reason. The actual event isn't fully designed, so ideally everything's happening all at once, but it's never quite always.
And I guess you can't just scale it down because you've got a certain separation that you need to keep between all your drones. So there's a minimum size it can be.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the big misconceptions, is you can just sort of grab the corners and extend it however big you want it, and it doesn't quite work like that.
No. Jack wanted to know what inspired Celestial to use drone light shows as a medium for storytelling. These are good questions, Jack. Well done.
Yeah, they are.
You don't have to say Jack every time.
I do.
Jack wants to know.
Yeah, I think it was just seeing the reaction that audiences have to it. You can get a really emotional impact. There is nothing like it. Going back to that Space Invader example at a music festival, there is nothing like that. Anywhere. There's no way of.
Well, it can literally be anything you can imagine it can be. I mean, when I was working in wristbands, like everything was just 2D. Like you couldn't make the images or anything like that. But you've got like a third dimension. You can just sculpt whatever you want in it.
No, it's really cool. So it's doing that something unique.
And is a more historical question, I guess. What has been the most challenging show you've produced?
Australia,
probably Australia. Yeah, one of our first shows, sort of in amongst lockdown. One of the first big commissions was on the other side of the world in Australia.
We were flying a drone display over a river. It's about 200 meters off the shore, and we had to get network out there. So we had to sink this fiber optic cable under the river.
Wow!
And put a load of access points on a boat.
I hadn't
even had to go out to the boat and set up sort of the Wi-Fi net. Everything. So,
and then just the whole thing of like in lockdown, we weren't able to fly over there readily. When we actually did get over there, we were one of the first with visas. And it's working on the other side of the world. That was pretty challenging.
Yeah, I think we'd only been up and running for like 6 months at the time. So,
and how hard is it to transport like 1,000 lipos on a plane somewhere?
That was a nightmare. I think we had to ship them over in small boxes and then do loads of cargo trips with hundreds of batteries in it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely. That's the logistics of any of the shows we do abroad are really challenging.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Any method of transport has requirements, and also they're just not used to. Nobody moves that type of battery in that quantity and that amount of drones. So they're used to seeing somebody turn up with an Inspire at an airport. They're not used to seeing someone turn up with pallets of batteries and pallets of drones.
So you're very familiar with bump stops on vehicles.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh my god. Jack wants to know because he can't be trusted to talk directly at you. Yeah.
But hopefully sort of those challenges are rewarding when you sort of get some audience response from it.
Yeah. I never seen him. I'm stuck in my box the whole time. I've never even seen a drone show. I've flown 400 of them.
That's the thing. You always he's the most experienced pilot that's never actually seen a drone show from the front.
Always like a little shed or a tent or something somewhere.
Do
do you get a different sort of thrill or reward out of it then, or like what keeps you sort of pushing for it?
No, just seeing cooler stuff, you know. Like I'm sure there's way more ways that can be animated. Like I said, the show could be anything you want it to be. So you know, you could see like a 200-meter whale appear in the sky in front of you, and you know, stuff like that's cool. It's
I think as well,
What do you think-
some of the shows we do are so technically challenging in terms of production. You know, it's so rewarding when you finally pull it off. You know, we like Glastonbury this year, we flew at the biggest music festival in the world, arguably, and you know, from a tiny slither of land that they made available for us in a really dense festival. It's the size of a mini city. You know,
when it all works together, and then you've got a perfect show, and everything's on time to the millisecond, and that's pretty rewarding.
Well, what would you say your influences are in terms of like dance, music, visuals? I mean, I'm thinking back to the kind of animations that Chemical Brothers and others used to do. They used to have very strong, bold, visually distinct animations. Are there anything like that that influences the style of your visuals and animations?
Dots.
I mean,
old video games, or you mentioned Space Invaders. Is there anything you call back on and think, that's going to transpose well to being in the sky?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, there was definitely like a lot of Aboriginal art, which is dot-based.
Yes, yeah.
I think what else, really?
Yeah.
I mean, what Jack and I were saying when we were watching your Christmas Carol one is it feels very much like it's a completely different style of visual display. It's not a screen. It's not like pixels. It's not vectors. It's just a completely different way that you're having to think about it. And we were saying it's like you're having to invent a new art form almost.
I think I was saying it was like a point cloud more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and also
yeah.
You can move the density of pixels. You haven't got to worry about having a square screen. If you're making a Christmas tree, you can move the pixel density down to the bottom. So that must be quite weird as well.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a few years to work out like what the art style is and like to play around with it. And we're still coming up with new techniques and new, pushing it, all the time about what you can do with it.
And where do you see it going? Are there any sort of big new trends or tech or opportunities that you can see out in the distance on the horizon, or anything coming up? Any concepts that you're currently working on that you can share with us?
Easy to take on.
Yeah,
I've got stuff we can share.
Not all of it, but I mean, I think as a broad, brush of what we think, it's going to be like all of these multifaceted kind of AV elements all coming together. So you'll see, lights and lasers integrating with drones, or interacting with drones. Payloads on drones doing different things. Will become part of it, and then synchronizing all of that together. So it's not just a drone show anymore. I think we're starting to drift past that. It's more like a full mixture of all elements. It's your audio synced with lights, synced with special effects, synced with drones, and enhanced by drones.
And from the Christmas Carol one, I imagine you're going to be expanding that out to other stories. Like, it feels very much like it's a sort of an evolution, but quite a big one from the sort of the other styles of shows that you've done, in that there is a literal narrative there to that. It is almost like a stage show almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, bit of a plug. Wizard of Oz is our next show, which is on set at the moment. You're obviously more than welcome to come visit and see that one. It's just again an evolution of that. It's the same formula, but sort of enhanced, and traveling around the country at different big stadiums, all around the country. And then continuing our big sort of commercial work. With large scale, kind of impactful shows for brands, essentially. But I mean, what do you think about innovations in tech and anything else?
No, I can't think of anything that you haven't already said.
I mean, there's lots in the software as well that's improving all the time, and efficiencies in how long we can fly, how quickly we can take off and land, and optimizing the transitions of everything. All of that is improving a lot behind the scenes. It's only a couple of years ago that an 8-minute show was incredible, on the battery life, and now we double that essentially, and and then in a couple of years it'll be double again, and
Hydrogen, my friend. We've got a
hydrogen.
lead for you.
It needs to come down in price a bit first.
Yeah.
And be a
Don't
bit more
worry, no.
friendly to transport as well. But so
Yeah.
one last question to round things off. If any of our audience are curious about your shows and want to find out how they can see one of your shows, what's the best way to follow you and find out?
Sure. I mean, our website, celestial.show, and then on all media channels, Celestial Drones, you'll find us there. Drop any of us an email if you want to get involved. JP@celestial.show, or AB for Anthony, and we're more than happy to get in touch.
Excellent.
Here's a last cheeky question. How do you pronounce the platform that your ticketed shows are sold through?
Yup.
Yup.
There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah, that
I
was a bit of an argument amongst us.
It's
Yarp.
it's YUUP.com.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not YWP, it is YWP. It's no. But yes, there we go.
You remembered
know
it.
where to go.
Yeah.
This is true, and we've been talking about it, so it's worked. So there's the Wizard of Oz. You said, are there any other shows that you're likely to be at, either ticketed ones or commissions that people might want to keep on their radar?
Anything we can talk about? We might be able to talk.
That's the problem. But we'll keep in touch on our social media. We'll be around all the kind of big events and small local events and all our ticketed shows across the country. So there's a lot. We fly so much. So if anyone wants to come check us out, I'm more than happy to get in touch. Come along, have a look.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, please don't try flying your own drone at one of our shows.
Without
Engage
your
Brian.
permission.
Great. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
fine.
thank you very much. Do you want to read us out, Jack?
Yeah, sure. We have been Let's Drone Out, and you've been listening to us for the last hour, and we have been supported by our lovely Patreons who keep the lights on, keep everything running. We could do with a few more, so if you listen to this and enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it, because StreamYard's gone up in price like everything else.
Hosting costs.
But
Anyway.
I know. Besides all that, please become Patreon, because Frank will hurt me. You've been yes, you've been joined by the usual suspects. Everyone's favorite Curry Kitten.
Goodbye.
The man with a moustache, Stephen.
Thank you and good night.
Our special guests for tonight, Ant and JP from Celestial. Thank you very much. It's an audio podcast, lads. Say goodbye, please.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Bye.
Well, if you listen to this on iTunes, and you just got the message. And of course, our Lord and Master, Andrew/Frank.
Bye.
And somehow Frank doesn't want to hurt me. I've been bright till I fly. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
And I'm going to let Frank
Good.
press